will engage with labor unions on the implication of this latest directive. Also, this evening, speculation over a possible shake-up in the NPP's minority leadership has been firmly dismissed by the General Secretary, Justin Frimpong Koduah.
Overwhelmingly satisfied, because we know the work that the mighty minority under the leadership of Afenyo Market have been doing. And certainly we will continue to give them all the needed support for them to be able to continue to perform their job. But we are impressed. We are very impressed. We are very elated about the work that they have been doing as a minority group.
We'll get into the details of the conversation with the NPP's General Secretary, Justin Frimpong Koduah. But before we begin the stories and get into the details of some of the stories this evening, let's touch base with my colleague, Lord Edwasari, who will provide us with some news summaries. Lord, what do you have for us tonight?
Thank you, Crosby. Let me run you through the news summaries very quickly. Now, today, Friday, February 13th, the world marks World Radio Day, an international observance proclaimed by UNESCO in 2011 and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012. The day honors broadcasters globally for their voices, the stories they share, and the vital role radio continues to play in informing and connecting societies. Elsewhere, President John Dramani Mahama has urged African leaders to prioritize funding for gender equality, warning that without sustained financial commitment, the continent's development will remain incomplete. In politics, former Western North Regional Minister and a member of the Kennedy Japan campaign team, Jojo Rocky Obeng, has firmly rejected suggestions that the former flag bearer hopeful should break away from the NPP to contest the 2028 presidential election as an independent candidate. His comments follow calls from a section of Kennedy Japan supporters urging the former Central MP to form a third force after losing the NPP's 2026 presidential primary. And finally, still on politics, but this time around in the camp of the NPP, the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, NPP, Justin Frimpong Koduah, has criticized the Attorney General's handling of the case involving former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta, describing the situation as political persecution rather than a genuine pursuit of accountability. That's it for the news summaries, Crosby.
Thank you so much, Lord, for bringing us the news summaries. And you're reminded that we're live also on all our social media platforms. 3FM927. Join us, share your thoughts with us, and we will be glad to share them with the rest of the world. Let's begin the bulletin from here. The Controller and Accountant General's Department has directed all public sector workers to verify their Ghana card details on the government payroll or risk having their salary suspended from March 15, 2026. In a letter dated February 11, 2026, the department explained that the rollout of an upgraded e-payslip platform has uncovered significant data discrepancies. According to the controller, some National Identification Authority numbers captured on the payroll system do not match official records held by the National Identification Authority. According to the controller, to correct the situation, human resource departments of all affected covered entities have been instructed to reconcile the mismatched data to ensure every employee on the mechanized payroll is properly linked to their verified biometric identity. Now, 17 institutions have been affected. Join us on Facebook right now as we run you through the list of some of these institutions who have been affected by this latest directive from the Controller and Accountant General Department. Now, they include the Ghana Education Service, the Ghana Health Service, the Judicial Service of Ghana, security agencies such as the Ghana Prison Service, the Ghana Immigration Service, and the Ghana National Fire Service, as well as the Electoral Commission of Ghana and the Ghana Audit Service, amongst others. These are a few of the institutions affected by the happenings and the latest directive from the Controller and Accountant General's Department. This is the subject to staying on tonight as we engage with labor expert Austin Game, who now joins us on the line for some further analysis. Mr. Game, thank you so much for joining us. Good evening to you. My first question to you will be the punishment, if you like, or the sanction that delay will bring. is it appropriate to threaten salary suspension over data discrepancies that may not be the fault of the individual workers?
Thank you. Well, certainly it may not be the fault of the individual worker, but we cannot even draw conclusion that way. But generally speaking, the HR department of every organization will have to ensure that documentation are regularly checked to ensure that it's in conformity with what should be admitted onto payroll. Indeed, that is the reason why at the end of every month, the signature of the HR will be required to validate so as to give guarantee that payment that is being made is to the right person or group of people. So it may not be their fault, but this is the only way that the controller can ensure that we do not have what we used to describe as ghosts. Because people may die, people may leave the company, people may retire, and yet they are retained sometimes over a period of time. And so that is the reason why it should be appropriate. For instance, those, let's say, nurses and some teachers who left and or officially have been sent to, let's say, Jamaica, Barbados, or wherever, and they are no more here. Don't become surprised tomorrow if some of them who are not supposed to be on the payroll of the government of Ghana, the employer, may be paid over a certain period of time because of some careless mistake. So I think it's important that validation takes place, and also to ensure that what is captured on the Ghana card is the same on the database of the Controller and Accountant General Department.
And I think it brings me to my next question. You've touched on it, but if you could elaborate further, what steps should be taken to ensure that genuine payroll errors, they do not unfairly penalize public sector employees?
Well, I'm expecting in this 21st century and technological advancement for every HR head to have a dashboard that has detailed information about all workers. And as soon as you come to your office, there should be some beeping to show that somebody's retirement is due, somebody is on leave and will not be returning, somebody has resigned, so that at the end of the month, when payroll is submitted to you, you can confidently sign because you have information showing clearly that these people are no longer in the employ of the employer. But it appears that we are not making full use of availability of technology in this day and age. I think that is part and parcel of the confusion that we have on our payrolls.
Thank you so much, Mr. Game. Thank you for your time with us on the program.
You're most welcome.
Labor expert Austin Game engaging with us there. This is a subject to be touching base on again as we attempt to reach the General Secretary of the National Association of Teachers, who will also join us as part of the affected groups of organizations or agencies under investigation, or who have been affected by this directive from the Controller and Accountant General. You're reminded that they include the Ghana Education Service, the Ghana Health Service, the Judicial Service of Ghana, some security agencies such as the Prison Service, the Ghana Immigration Service, and the Ghana National Fire Service, as well as staff of the Electoral Commission and the Ghana Audit Service, amongst others. The Controller and Accountant General's Department directing all public sector workers to verify their Ghana card details on the government payroll or risk having their salary suspended from March 15, 2026. According to the controller, some national ID numbers captured on the payroll system, they do not match the official records held by the National Identification Authority. So to correct the situation, The Human Resource Departments of all the affected entities have been instructed to reconcile the mismatched data to ensure every employee on the mechanized payroll is properly linked to the verified biometric identity. Let's do some other stories tonight. And the NPP says it is not considering any changes to its minority leadership in Parliament, dismissing speculation of an impending reshuffle. The party's General Secretary Justin Frimpong Kodua clarified this in an interview on TV3, stating that the matter has not been tabled by the party's leadership. The speculation follows the party's recent flag bearership contest, which saw Dr. Bawumia re-elected as the NPP's presidential candidate for the 2028 elections after a contested internal race. The contest had exposed divisions within the party, with reports that the minority leader, Alexander Pinyomakin, bagged one of Dr. Bawumia's main challengers, Kennedy Ejapon. Well, amid the post-contest realignment and internal reorganization efforts, questions had emerged about possible adjustments to the party's parliamentary leadership. However, Mr. Kodua maintains that there are no plans to replace the minority leader and that the current leadership continues to enjoy the confidence of the party.
Party considering making changes to its parliamentary leadership. We saw the NDC do that before the last election. Is that something that is under consideration?
It's something that's not come on the table. And I don't see why at this point the party want to change the leadership in Parliament. For what reason? So it's something that has not come on the table.
Is the party at the headquarters level satisfied with the parliamentary opposition that has been provided under the leadership of
overwhelmingly satisfied. Overwhelmingly satisfied. Because we know the work that the mighty minority under the leadership of Frimpong Markin have been doing. And certainly we will continue to give them all the needed support for them to be able to continue to perform their job. But we are impressed. We are very impressed. We are very elated about the work that they have been doing as a minority group.
Final question. I mean, is there any message for the members of the New Patriotic Party, those who made time to watch you this morning, and subsequently we know we have a lot of your colleagues also joining us on this platform?
Well, I'll continue to encourage them that, yes, we went through a difficult period, particularly in 2025, but we have been able to come out of it successfully. And if, as a party, we are able to close our ranks, if, as a party, we are able to continue the reorganization that we are doing, I'm very convinced that in 2028, we shall come back to power. I'm highly convinced. All that Ghanaians are expecting from us is to prove and show to them that, yes, we mean business, we have taken our reorganization very serious, and our internal elections will be conducted peacefully, transparently, and also make sure that at least what caused us in 2024 elections, the party would have learned lessons from it. The key among them is apathy. And apathy started internally when some members were denying the chance to contest for certain positions at various levels. And we have bent on making sure that the internal elections that we are going to organize, it will be free, fair, and transparent. And if we are able to have an effective structure from the polling station, electoral area, constituency to the region and national, so certainly the NPP will be in a strong position to come back to power in 2028.
Justin Frimpong Kodua engaging my colleague Joseph Frimpong Akable there. Professor Smart Sapo is a political analyst, is joining us right now for a conversation on the happenings within the NPP and some of the comments made by the General Secretary. Prof, good evening to you. How significant is the NPP's decision not to change its minority leadership at this stage, especially after a decisive or a divisive flag bearership contest?
Right, Crosby, good evening to your good self and good evening to our cherished listeners. I think the call came from rather some members and not the executives of the NPP or maybe the top guys in NPP. You remember in the Futu constituency, Kennedy won decisively. And that was where some followers of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia were saying, oh, he didn't show good faith, blah, blah, blah. But the party suggested that I think everybody has the right to support any of the aspirants, and so it cannot be grounds for suggestion of his removal. So I think that it wasn't like a planned national level decision to have something to do with changes in the minority, but it was just part of those aftermath of the elections where some people were thinking that everybody should have supported Bawumia, and that once Ifutu didn't support Bawumia, it meant that something should happen to the leadership in parliament. So I found it quite a good thing to do for the General Secretary to come and clarify, so that from today onwards, every member of the NPP and Ghanaians who felt there was going to be such change will now have a rest until such a time that it will become necessary for them to effect such changes.
Based on the numbers of the minority in Parliament, to what extent could perceived internal alignment during the flag bearer race affect cohesion within the party's parliamentary caucus?
Right. I think the outcome is quite unifying. It wasn't like a head-to-head type of outcome where you can say the entire front of the minority in parliament is now, let's say, divided on both sides. You can see clearly that even before the elections, the majority of the minority decided to go with one of the candidates. So what it meant was that it was, let's say, just few of their colleagues who was with the other aspirants. And almost all those aspirants have sincerely admitted to the positions they had. And so has their colleagues in parliament also declared their full support for the eventual winner, who is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. So, and they are matured politicians at their level, members of parliament. So I want to believe that by now that event is behind them, and they are solidly going to unify behind the leadership and, by extension, the elected flag bearer, so that they can pursue the unity they so dearly desire.
I see. And finally, from a Prof, how important is continuity in the minority leadership as the NPP positions itself for the 2028 elections? Just oppose that against the possibility or the advantages of a reshuffle, bringing fresh brains, fresh ideas, fresh strategies.
I think the lessons can be learned from what the NDC did close to the 2024 elections, where they thought that the conversation was going to be closely centered on economy, and therefore there should be some changes from Honorable Haruna to Honorable Keslato Forsen and all those changes that were done. Based on the line of conversations the minority then thought would need to necessitate that change. I think now there hasn't been any clear angle, political angle from where they can say we need to change and bring this person. If it is about the legal things going on in Parliament, Frimpong Markin is quite able to manage. And even on instances where he's unable to manage, you see his immediate back benches are properly positioned to provide the necessary support. You see Koduah there to give the economic angle to it, Kabiru, Dr. Amin Nanta. So what it means is that what they will need in him is the leadership, the maturity, and all those things. And as he leaves it and works as minority leader, I'm sure year on year or daily, he should mature, he should grow into all those things that constitutes leadership of parliament. But as for the feeding, he has some strong guys behind him to be feeding him on the various aspects of things that comes to the floor.
Thank you so much, Prof. But Prof, please do not leave. Indulge me. Stay on the lines for me, because we'll talk some more. Let me introduce into the conversation Sami Obing, the Executive Director of Africa Parliamentary Network. Sami, thank you for staying. Good evening to you. How would you assess the performance of the minority leadership in Parliament so far, particularly in terms of holding government accountable, shaping debate, and then making sure that their voices are heard?
So, good evening. It's been a little over 1 year of coming into force of the live parliament, with a house of 4 years. And so a quarter of the period may not necessarily be full-time able to do a full assessment. However, it is important to note that this is also a year in which, because of internal party politicking, I say that the minority members of parliament generally, beyond their leaders, were very much distracted by post-election trauma, so to speak, and then also having to organize themselves for internal flag bearership race. Those things provided some layers of distraction to the minority caucus generally. Of course, their leader, being the leader of the caucus, also suffered that. The blow of having to deal with a majority caucus that is overwhelmingly, bigger than their numbers, played a role. And all of that had led to some levels of instability, within the caucus. It is my expectation that going into a second year where the dust of the last elections are settled, where the issues around internal party primaries, at least for the presidential race, a flag bearership race, which had a potential of dividing them a little bit, had also settled. There will be better focus, less distraction, and we'll be able to move forward. So there is way more room for improvement.
And from your experience, do you believe that maintaining the current minority leadership strengthens the party unity and parliamentary effectiveness, or a change could have injected new energy?
From the work that we do at Parliamentary Network Africa, we've seen over and again that when it comes to leadership in Parliament, consistency matters, experience matters. The leader of a caucus, those folks on the front bench of caucuses, are not only leading their caucuses, they do not have only that as the role that they have to play as leaders of the caucus. There is also the management of the institution of Parliament, which rests also on them, jointly with the folks of the other caucus and the leadership of the parliamentary service. And so, warming yourself into a leadership role in Parliament, and then having external voices outside of Parliament, clamoring for removal and changes and all of those things, I really do not think that that's the way to go. And we need to guard against that. Of course, the prerogative of the caucus to be able to decide who leads them and all of that, I agree. But it's also one of those things that we need to situate within the context of the role that a caucus leader plays, for which reason it's important not to see it as one of those things that you can change as though you are changing your shoelace. It's important to emphasize that. Now, keeping some level of sustainability with who is in leadership has also been the culture, really, of the Parliament of Ghana. I mean, in the past, until very recent times, we did not really have situations where the changes were so rampant. In fact, in the past, the only reasons why some of these changes were experienced were mainly because there were members of Parliament who were on the front bench who got ministerial appointments, and because they were moving into the executive branch, they needed to relinquish their positions within the legislature, etc., etc. But we've seen some level of stability when it comes to leadership in Parliament, and it's for good reason. It's for reason of strengthening the caucus. It's for reason of ensuring that their knowledge about the system helps to build the entire institution of Parliament. If one argues that because of our internal party primary, a leader must change, then I wonder whether indeed what was practiced for the internal party primaries was truly democracy. Because then, if it is supposed to be one where I hold my views, hold your views, on different sides of the divide. However, we all agree that once the leader is chosen, they follow the leader and play their respective roles. Then, for me, I really do not see an issue of whether one supported a particular candidate or not to account to being the basis for which a leader in Parliament and a leader of a caucus gets to be changed. Unless, of course, there are other reasons.
Samuel Bing, thank you. Thank you so much for your time with us on the program. Samuel Bing is Executive Director of Africa Parliamentary Network, speaking with us there. Professor Smart Sapong is still on the line with me. Prof, I'm sure you agree with almost everything that Sami has said, don't you?
Yes, I do. I do. I think some level of consistency would help them. If there's any support to complement his efforts, they can do so. And then at the right time, if there's a need, strategic need to effect those changes, they do. In fact, I fear if they do it anytime soon, people would rightly so link it to the presidential elections that way, and then that will be a very bad picture to create. So they should allow some consistency. After all, he is doing well.
For the dismissal of the CEO of Cocoa Board, Dr. Randy Abe there. Still in Parliament, the chairperson of the Health Committee, Dr. Mark Kurt Nawani has blamed the lack of central and coordinated communication system between facilities for the prevalence of the no-bed syndrome in the country. He's urging families of patients who lose their lives due to the no-bed syndrome to seek legal redress. His remarks follow reports that a victim of a hit-and-run incident was allegedly turned away by 3 major health facilities because there was no available bed space.
You are a human being, or you carried your relative to the place.
Dr. Mark Kurt Nawani reacting to the no-bed syndrome in the country. And now, President John Dramani Mahama has condemned all forms of violence against women and girls, asking for tougher sanctions against perpetrators. The president's comment comes on the back of a recent rape case in Ghana. He spoke on the sidelines of the AU summit in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
In February 2025, this assembly adopted the African Union Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, a historic step, and yet progress has been slow. Ghana has signed the convention, and we've initiated steps to ratify. This session of our parliament is going to ratify the convention. And I urge all member states to sign and ratify this convention before the end of 2026. Violence against women and girls is not only a moral outrage, it is an economic catastrophe costing Africa billions annually in healthcare, lost productivity, and justice expenditures, while devastating families and communities. Ratification of this convention is a clear declaration that violence against women has no place in our societies. These instruments are not merely gender frameworks. They are cornerstones of Africa's human rights and development architecture.
The voice of President John Dramani Mahama there. Now, as part of efforts to operationalize President John Dramani Mahama's 24-hour economy markets, the Border District Assembly and the Office of the Member of Parliament, they began a massive decongestion exercise at the allocated land site for work to commence. And several shops at the area have since been demolished to pave way for the start of the project. Residents say they hope the project kickstarts as soon as possible. The 24-hour economic program It is a flagship intervention program that seeks to deepen local economic development and decentralization. Let's take a listen to some residents of the area as they reacted to this development.
Actually, we are most grateful for getting this beautiful edifice. But you know, for every good project, normally it comes with other disadvantages or maybe some push. How to get the land actually wasn't easy, in a sense that people were occupying here, they were getting their daily bread here. All of a sudden, we have to cut them away from their daily bread. Actually, it wasn't that easy, but through negotiation, through the use of Bole, the district assembly, and then that of the MP, we both collaborated with the traditional leaders, and we were able to talk to the people here, and honestly, therefore agreed that they will move here and they will use it for development.
And now, the Africa Union's champion for gender development and Ghana's president has challenged African countries to commit to increasing their budgetary allocations to support women and gender-based programs to ensure that women are not left behind. Speaking at a breakfast meeting on financing and reaffirming Africa's gender commitment, President Mahama noted that gender-based programs suffer budget cuts whenever countries want to be austere in managing their budgets, a move he says stifles growth and development of the continent.
By 2028, every member state should adopt gender-responsive budgeting with a defined minimum allocation for gender equality. The second is that let us commit to urgent ratification and implementation of the AU Convention on Ending Violence Against Women and Girls, supported by costed national action plans. And third, let us accelerate financial and economic inclusion to ensure women and our youth enjoy equal access to finance, assets, markets, decent work, and economic decision-making. And the fourth and final, let us convene a high-level stock-taking summit to publicly report on our progress, reinforce accountability, and celebrate our success stories. Every sector and development partners, align your financing with African priorities. Treat gender equality not as charity, but as smart investment. Fund women entrepreneurs, care infrastructure and digital inclusion, and report transparently on the outcomes. To civil society and women-led organizations, your advocacy, innovation, and vigilance are indispensable in this struggle. The space for your participation and the resources to sustain your work must be expanded. The true test of this meeting will not be the speeches we've given here today, but tomorrow's budgets, the laws, and protection for women and girls. When we meet again, let it be to announce results and not to explain delays.
The voice of President John Dramani Mahama there. Now, the Minority Caucus in Parliament, they're calling on President Mahama to dismiss the Chief Executive Officer of Cocoa Board, Randy Abbey, citing what it describes as deepening crisis in the cocoa sector. According to the minority, the reduction in the cocoa producer price of approximately 28.6% could have serious implications for farmers and their families, hence the need for the president to act.
Was 3,100 Ghana cedis. And I remember the finance minister saying Nanadro was a cheat and that he was cheating cocoa farmers and wicked, and that he was cheating cocoa farmers big time. They increased the cocoa price from 3,100 to 3,225 and subsequently to 3,625. Yesterday, when the emergency cabinet meeting was called, we were expecting that the president was going to give a directive that the finance minister should find money to pay cocoa farmers who have sold their produce to the license buying companies. This morning we were waiting for the press conference at 11 o'clock. It didn't happen. 1 o'clock, it didn't happen. It started somewhere around 2:30 thereabout. Only to hear that the producer price has been slashed by more than 1,000 Ghana cedis. 10 million. From 3,625 to 2,587. This has never, ever happened in the history of this country. Why are we treating cocoa farmers this way? Why? Cocoa farmer has never enjoyed the full benefit of the FOB. Never, ever.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the press, we were told that the Minister for Finance was coming to announce what they call a restructuring of the cocoa sector. We are very surprised that the minister rather used the opportunity to shortchange cocoa farmers. Before we left government, we introduced a turnaround strategy for cocoa board. And we worked on this with the IMF. This strategy was intended to comprehensively restructure cocoa board. What is happening today in the cocoa sector is not surprising to us because this government has failed to implement the cocoa board turnaround strategy. That is why cocoa board is facing these challenges. I heard that the minister is directing to move the cost of cocoa roads to the Ministry of Roads. This measure was in the strategy, the turnaround strategy that we handed over to them. It took them 1 year. They have not implemented it. Only because there is now crisis in the cocoa sector, the minister has rushed to announce this measure, which the minister was well informed about in the strategy for turning around cocoa board, which we handed over to them. They were also supposed to legislate a transparent pricing policy for cocoa. They have not done that. They were to remove some cost items which tend to reduce the producer price of cocoa, which we thought were unnecessary and in some cases duplicative. They have not done that.
The minority in Parliament reacting to the happenings in the cocoa sector there. And now, the national chairman of the NDC, Johnson Asiodin-Nketi, has urged party members who are yet to receive government appointees to be patient. Addressing party faithful during a stop on his campaign on the Central Regional Tour in Winneba in the Efutu constituency, Mr. Asiodin-Nketi explained that constitutional provisions limit the number of appointments President John Mahama can make at any given time. He noted that the party had fulfilled its promise to reduce the size of government to 60 ministers, a move he said naturally restricts the number of available positions. The NDC chairman encouraged members with grievances to channel their concerns through the appropriate party structures, assuring them that their issues would be addressed in due course.
Branches ya beto no ehon na etase mo fi money obi a obeye na djuma yie a monim se osom party no woni kwacho ehon nkohia se mo besesa no na obi a ne nai ba kusi ha na ne nai ba kusi ha mo na mo otumi se mo besesa sa do eyezu Enunti se abatu oluduru so na muko jisika na obi amunim se the nice ya Moji ni sika na matu amano. Asiedu katia ntimi mfiri nkran emeyi no mfiri ho. Enti mo bie mani na de onye papa na moto abayi no a moyi na firi ho. Enti madam nyina ase. Me hwe ani mu se branch elections no. Ye be wie no na che se mwanya branch executives ya. Womo ebedi party no anim near Timmy Akoko, near winning 2028 election. Nayanya MP, Ewo, Efutua, Medamunas, Eyezu.
The voice of Johnson Asiedu Nketia there. He is the chairman of the NDC speaking there. This is still Hot Edition live on 3FM 92.7. We're live also on all our social media platforms at 3FM 927. Let's bring you some more stories tonight in relation to some recent happenings in the country, because the board chair of the Volta Aluminium Company, Horace Ni Ayi Ankra, has moved to calm rising anxiety among workers, assuring them that the state smelter is not being put up for sale despite widespread agitation and anxiety amongst workers and speculation about the divestiture. Addressing staff at Ideba, he stressed that government remains committed to resetting Valco under the 24-hour economy, guaranteeing job security as the company steadily returns to profitability. Hot Edition will return with some business news right after this.
Television, refrigerator.
Welcome to the business segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're live also on all our social media platforms at 3FM 927. Well, the Chief Executive Officer of Dalex Finance, Joe Jackson, has thrown his weight behind the government's pivot toward market-based pricing and guaranteed minimums for the cocoa sector, describing the move as a necessary step to protect the livelihoods of Ghanaian farmers. Speaking in the wake of sweeping reforms announced by the Ministry of Finance this week, the veteran financial analyst noted that aligning farm gate prices with international benchmarks while maintaining a safety net is the most sustainable way to manage the industry's volatility.
Whatever it is, some reforms were going to be needed, were going to be required.
So, on the positive side, listen, the move towards market-based pricing and guaranteed minimums, excellent. It's good for the farmers. On the second hand, if they strengthen financing mechanisms, it will only help Cocoa Board be better placed to buy cocoa and to trade cocoa. Listen, that can be a problem. The third thing is that we wish to add value to the domestic economy. That we can only applaud. And then there is the focus on accountability. So the positive side, but there are a few risks we have to look at. Number one, execution risk. And I suppose we will talk about operationalizing domestic bonds and the risk they carries. We will talk about the fact that Cocoa Board may need some more institutional reform.
Joe Jackson is the Chief Executive Officer of Dalex Finance speaking there. And still in business news, Ghana's economy maintained its growth trajectory in November 2025, expanding by 4.2% year-on-year, according to the latest provisional monthly indicator of economic growth released by the Ghana Statistical Service. While the economy remains in expansionary territory, the new figures indicate a notable moderation in momentum compared to the 7.1% growth recorded in November 2024. Now, this serves as a high-frequency gauge of economic activity, providing a pulse check of the nation's health before quarterly GDP figures are finalized. Listen to government statistician Dr. Al-Hassan Idrisu.
It means that overall economic activity in Ghana was 4.2% higher in November 2025 than in the same month in the previous year. This 4.2% is what we call the growth rate from the MEC index. In plain language, Ghana produced 4.2% more goods and services in November 2025 than it did 1 year earlier. It is important to note that the MEC is not seasonally adjusted, since we don't yet have a longer series to enable deseasonalization. Monthly economic activity can rise and fall due to seasonal factors such as harvest cycles and increased end-of-year services demand. For this reason, we focus on the year-on-year growth, not month-on-month changes. Despite this volatility, the data shows a clear upward trend from November 2023 to November 2025.
The voice of government statistician Dr. Al-Hassan Idrisu there, ending the business segment. Sports news is up next with Andrew Sifat. My name is Noble Crosby Annan. Stay with us.
Doesn't always end. Sometimes it just pauses.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 with me, Andrew Sifa Bamfo. Now, in less than 48 hours, the Super Clash will take place on Sunday between Asante Kotoko and Accra Heart of Folk. Let's head to the camp of Asante Kotoko, where forward Albert Amwa, who got the winning goal when the two sides met in December 2024, has expressed readiness ahead of the tie. Kotoko are fifth on the league standings, while Heart of Folk are in fourth place.
We need that point very seriously, and I think we'll, based on that point to win our supporters' heart back. I think we haven't been consistently in our matches, so I think that match our supporters need it so much. So I think we need that 3 points. It's the performance, and I think they should believe in us. They shouldn't give up on us, and they should come in their numbers to support us. I think without them, I don't think we are playing for anyone. And I think they should come to the stadium to support us, and we'll make sure that they will enjoy the game. Working more on our goal scoring, and we also need to get more goals in that match. So I think we are ready for Sunday.
And so that was Asante Kotoko forward Albert Amwa speaking. Now on the flip side, Hearts of Folk are seeking a first win at the Baba Yara Stadium since 2018. My colleague Mutala Yakubu takes a closer look at the Phobians in the following report.
Points, the passion, the nerves, the pure euphoria, it's always delivers. Hearts of Folk make the trip to Kumasi to face their fiercest rivals, Asante Kotoko, in a fixture loaded with pride and massive stakes. Just 1 point separates the two sides on the table, but this time they share a common target, league leaders Midiama SC, who sits at the summit of the Ghana Premier League. Kotoko claimed the first leg with a narrow 1-0 win, and Hearts head into this one with revenge firmly on their minds. Head coach Didi Dramani, however, isn't talking emotions. His focus is simply victory.
The preparations is just like any other league game, but this comes with its own commitment, energy, effort, everything. But the preparation is just to enhance and improve what our style of play is about.
Dramani will now come up against Prince Yaousu in the Kotoko dugout following Karim Zito's departure. But for the Hearts boss, the change means little. His attention remains on preparing his side mentally and tactically for the challenge ahead.
When the game is on, coaches, we don't make decisions. The decisions we can only make is to make substitutions, is to start a player or not start a player, keep him on the bench or not keep him on the bench. These are the decisions we make. But the decisions, when to pass, when to move, when to run, we just want to hope that we are able to set up our teams, in the right ways.
With the title race heating up, this clash could shape the direction of the trophy. Former Hearts captain Aman Kwamriku is urging the Phobians to give everything.
My expectation is that Hearts of Folk should win.
Set for Sunday at the Baba Yara Sports Stadium, optimism is high on both sides. It's the league's most potent attack, Kotoko, against its most resolute defense, Hearts of Folk. Something has to give.
It's going to. And so that was a report by my colleague Mutala Yakubu ahead of Sunday's Super Clash. Remember that the game will be live on TV3 and on Nia TV at 5 p.m. Now, elsewhere, President of the Confederation of African Football, Dr. Patrice Motsepe, has firmly rejected claims that the 2027 African Cup of Nations could be stripped from its East African host. Addressing journalists after a CAF executive meeting in Dar es Salaam, Motsepe debunked the widespread report, while Motsepe also reaffirmed that Morocco remains the official host of the 2026 Women's African Cup of Nations, putting to rest speculation that had cast uncertainty over the tournament's venue.
I am here to tell Tanzania and Kenya and Uganda that I'm taking away the AFCON because our three countries are not going to be ready. That's totally unfounded. Like in this context that I am enormously confident that we will succeed. Will there be challenges? There are always challenges. There were many countries that wanted to host it, but because we didn't have time, our standards were very, very high. So there's still many countries that are interested. As we speak now, we still have an engagement with Morocco. So the WAFCON continues. It's going to be successful, and we will make sure that it takes place. It has to take place, Samson.
And so that was CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe speaking, bringing an end to Hot Edition here on 3FM 92.7. Remember that join us same time next week for more updates in the world of news. Until then, enjoy your weekend and happy Valentine's Day. My name is Andrew Sifa Bamfo.